Hey everybody, welcome back to Idiot Proof Cooking. So at the request of my wife, I'm going to show you how to make jambalaya today. It's one of those recipes that everybody should learn how to make because it's hearty, delicious, and super easy. Like everything's done in one pan. That being said, if you know how to make jambalaya and you're really confident in your ability to do so, go ahead and click that red button, the red X at the top of the screen if you want. But if you don't know how to make jambalaya or you want to learn how to improve yours, check this video out. I think you'll really like what I make today. So without any further ado, let's get into it, and I'll show you how to make this. Okay, so let's start off by making the seasoning that I'm going to be using in this jambalaya. Now you can experiment and make it your own, but if you want to follow a nice and simple one, here it is. Start off with a tablespoon of kosher salt, and then a tablespoon of smoked paprika. Oh, my spoon doesn't fit in there, so you're going to have to eyeball that one. And then a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of cayenne pepper for some heat, and a tablespoon of dried oregano, a tablespoon of dried thyme, and a tablespoon, approximately, again, eyeball that one, of white pepper, and then a few twists of freshly ground black pepper. Mix that all together, and there you go. You got yourself a simple seasoning that's not only going to be super flavorful, but is also going to bring some heat with that cayenne pepper. Give it a little taste test, and yeah, that is going to be great. So let's set that aside for a moment and talk about the vegetables I'm going to be using in this jambalaya. As you can see, there's a few of them, starting off with a large white onion, 2 stalks of celery, both a red and green bell pepper for some color. Then I'm going to also use 2 jalapenos, again for a little bit more heat. And then also traditionally jambalaya calls for using okra in it, so I'm also going to use about 5 or 6 stalks of that. The next step in the process is fairly straightforward. You're going to get all of your vegetables and dice them up finely. I started off with the onions, cut them out finely, avoid crying if you can. I know it's a very emotional situation to cut onions. Move on to the celery, again, cut them finely up, throw them into the same bowl with the onions. There we go. Carefully, Will, you don't want to spill them. Move on to your bell peppers. Now, I'm going to use both a green and a red bell pepper. You can use one or the other. You don't have to. I just wanted to add in a little bit of color with that red bell pepper. I thought it's going to look good. And again, throw them in with the rest of your vegetables. Up next is the jalapeno. Now I took the seeds out because I couldn't make it too hot at the end of the day. My daughter and wife are going to be eating this as well. If you want it to be spicier, cut them up but leave the seeds in and put them in with the vegetables. Last but not least, let's deal with the okra. Now this serves 2 purposes. 1, as a filling of the jambalaya, and 2, it'll help thicken it up a little bit. When you cut it up, you'll see that it's got almost like a sticky-like consistency, and that'll help thicken up the jambalaya, so you always add this in at the end when there's only about like 5 or 6 minutes left to cook. So cut them up and set those aside. Now let's go into the kitchen and start cooking the jambalaya. Start off with putting your Dutch oven on a burner and heating it on a medium heat and throwing in some neutral oil like the avocado oil I'm using. Then you're going to want to throw in some chicken. I'm using 3 chicken breasts and I dice them up finely into cubes. Throw them into the Dutch oven and start frying them around. Now with a jambalaya, you can do any mixture of meat, chicken, sausage, shrimp, any one of those. I'm going to use chicken and sausage and shrimp. Now normally a jambalaya would use andouille sausage, but I couldn't find that at any of the grocery stores that are in my town, so I ended up using mild Italian sausage, about 4 of them diced up into cubes. So fry those alongside the chicken until they're cooked through, and then it's time to add in some of the seasoning that you made. And just pour in as much as you want. I used about 2/3 of it. Mix that all together till it coats the sausage and chicken, and then we're going to need to take the meat out of the Dutch oven for a couple minutes. So use a slotted spoon and pull it all out of the Dutch oven very carefully like that. And now it's time to start frying the vegetables. Pour them all in at once and start mixing them together. You're going to want to mix these and fry them for about 2 to 3 minutes until they start getting nice and fragrant and start softening up. And then once that happens, it's time to start adding in some garlic. Use as many cloves or as little cloves as you want. I'm going to use 4 cloves here. Once you put the garlic in, similar to the vegetables beforehand, mix it in until it gets nice and fragrant. It should take about a minute or so. Once that's done, it's time to pour the chicken and sausage back in with the vegetables and mix it till it's all good and combined. Up next, I'm going to pour in a 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes and mix that in. Now, from everything I've read on jambalaya, that would make this a Creole jambalaya rather than a Cajun jambalaya. Everything I've read says that Creole jambalaya is the one that uses tomato, while Cajun does not. Regardless, the tomatoes are going to make it awesome tasting. Then you're going to want to add in 3 cups of chicken broth, 1 to 2 bay leaves for a little bit of extra flavor in this. Mix those in. I'm also going to put an extra sprinkle of thyme in. I just think that'll benefit this jambalaya. Mix those together. And then you're going to want to pour in 1.5 cups of white long grain rice. Leave it uncooked because you're going to pour it in with all of the sauce, all of the mixture, and you're going to cover the jambalaya and let it simmer for the next half an hour or so. And that rice is going to cook in there and suck up a ton of the moisture. You'll see. Let me take the lid off. It's been about half an hour. Look at that. Look how nice and thick it's gotten. Oh man, that looks fantastic already. But we're not done yet. Because there's still a little bit of moisture in there, we're going to throw in that okra we diced up and mix that around. Like I said, do it towards the end. And then last but not least, the jumbo shrimp. This is the last thing you're going to want to put in because it only takes like 5 minutes to cook. So throw it in raw, mix it in with the jambalaya, cover again for another 5, 6, 7 minutes until the shrimp turns nice and pink. That's when you know it's done, and then this is good to go. So here you go. Let me show you here. It's been about 6, 7 minutes. There's a shrimp. There, it's nice and cooked, and this is ready to rock and roll. The only thing I am going to do is add a little bit of kosher salt for taste, and a little bit more freshly ground black pepper, but you really don't have to add that if you don't want. Like, this is going to be perfect as is, but you can add a little bit more salt and pepper for taste if you want. So let's plate this up, but before I do, let's give you a close-up shot. Look at all the colors and the meat in there. Oh my god, it looks so good. I can't wait to dig into this. So I'm just going to scoop myself some out here into a bowl. There we go. Get a couple of shrimp in. I want to make sure I get some of the sausage, chicken, and shrimp. There, another close-up shot. Look at that. It just, the smell coming off this is just spectacular. Like, I can't even begin to describe it, guys, how amazing this smells. Look at that. There's a piece of the Italian sausage. I know it's not andouille sausage, so it's not completely traditional, but you know what? It's still going to taste great. And speaking of which, let's go in for a taste test here. It's still piping hot, but I don't care. I have to go in and try some. And it is so good. It is so good. It is just teeming with flavor. Just so many just rich and delicious flavors. As you can see, I burnt my mouth there on the bite. It was a little bit hot. But regardless, don't let that distract you. This jambalaya was fantastic. The shrimp, the chicken, the sausage, all cooked perfectly. All the hearty flavors coming off of all of those vegetables. And the okra was good too. I've never tried okra before this, but it was fantastic. And the spice that we put in it, it was just perfect. The right level of heat, you know, not too overpowering, just absolutely perfect. But anyways, that's the end of the episode, like always. If you like what you saw here today, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. We'll see you again soon on Needy Proof Cooking. Thank you for watching.